I have boxes and crates of CDs and cassettes in my basement, and I can't throw them away. I sometimes wonder, like, oh my God, what happens if the world crashes and we lose the internet? What am I going to do? So this is a treasure trove for me of like nuggets down in my basement that I know I have stored away like a squirrel in case something goes bad. I'll still have my music.
I'm going to make you sound Lipstone. Everybody say it.
Music is it's really emotional for me. It's definitely an emotional kind of outlet for me. I think I feel and can express emotion best with music. When I was in college, I was a literature major in college, and I studied Ralph Waldo Emerson a little bit. I had this professor who was like the #1 expert on Emerson in the United States. He was like president of the Ralph Waldo Emerson Society. So he was my professor. I had him like 3 times. And Emerson used to talk about this concept called the oversoul, which was, he defined as God, basically. The oversoul was God. And it's this like energy. And he said that the oversoul is like something that we're all connected to. And we all come from it and are connected to it. And like, I remember learning about that and seeing music kind of that way. Almost like music is like this special conduit to that force, that oversoul. Music is like one way that we can access this universal spirit that everybody can feel and makes us feel connected and belong to the world. Sounds kind of like, whatever, hippie-ish or something like that. But that's kind of like, I think that's how I started to define music.
Music is so special to me because it's a gift from God in that we don't have to have it, we don't need it to survive, we don't need it to live, but it's here for our enjoyment, and we need to be good stewards of it, and we need to continue to work on it and share it with people. So for me, music is joy, and it should be shared as often as possible.
That's what music is, right? Music is a form of communication. Sometimes without words, sometimes with lyrics, but for Rob and I, it's definitely like, I think being brothers, that connection's already there. So
when I'm playing with my brother, there's sort of like, there's a connection between us, and it is euphoric. I'm telling you, the hair stands up in the back of my neck when we, hit that note together, and it's just joyful.
It doesn't, I think it has a lot to do with the band clicking and connecting, and the Allman Brothers used to talk about hitting the note. I definitely know what that feels like. Rob and I started, like, the first band we really played together was soon after I got out of college, and that was the Big Dog Blues Band. And we formed that band like around, I would say, 1996, something like that. We used to play at a place in Bergenfield called A's Rock and Sports Club in Bergenfield. And that was a place that was built for music. That had a little bit of a stage. And that was the kind of place where like we were owing them money for the beer when we left, Those were those years. It's like the Blues Brothers. We're leaving, they're like, yo, it's $100. We played a gig at, it used to be called Mexicali Blues. And what's that place called now?
Teaneck.
In Teaneck, yeah. I forget the new name. We played 2 gigs there, actually, and they would both stand out in my mind as, like, special gigs. So we recreated The Last Waltz and had all these different, like, all these musicians that we knew, all of us, come in to play the different parts of the guests in The Last Waltz. And, like, that was amazing. It was amazing. And we rehearsed so much, and I think that's actually, looking back, that's the difference, And I try to preach this to my own students, too. Like, those great moments come from work, man.
So we are one of 4, and when my youngest brother Chris was born, there weren't enough bedrooms upstairs, so my parents moved me down to the basement, and I had this really sweet setup down there. And for 8th grade, I got a stereo system for my 8th grade graduation, and these really cool speakers, and I loved music, and it was such a great way to listen to it now. I could listen to it as loud as I wanted. It was in the basement, and my brothers would all come down. They would all come down and listen to music with me, and I would share with them.
When he got to be like 12, 13 years old, I was probably, 8, 9 years old, he started buying records. Van Halen, 1984 probably, or Diver Down. And Yes, Foreigner. Was a lot of that. A lot of the like Led Zeppelin stuff of the 70s too. So
I remember some really early stuff, like, believe it or not, Judas Priest. Like, that is so far from what I listen to today, but, you know, I was listening to Rush, Judas Priest, and I had, you know, LPs and cassettes, and these guys would come down, and they would just hang out and listen, you know. I was great at that, you know. And my cousin John Bonner. He was definitely an influence for me. He was like an older brother to me. He's a couple years older than I am, and I used to spend a lot of time with him, and I was introduced to a lot of music from John. Being at his house, being in his car, so, and then I think I passed it on to my brothers.
What was the tape store? Where did you go? Was there a record store where you lived?
Yeah, Music Merchant in Westwood, New Jersey, and it was owned by this guy John, who's still there today. He's a legend in the area, and he was also really interesting in that if you went in looking for something, he would take time to talk to you and talk to you about other bands or that you might be interested in. If you went to go out and buy an Allman Brothers album, he might talk to you about some other bands that are related that you might have never heard of before. Very cool guy.
You know, it's.
But my love of the Dead and Jerry Garcia was born from listening to Tony Rice. So Tony Rice, famous bluegrass guitar player. I had a friend of mine, Steve Toth, who I'm still friends with, who's a really well-known bluegrass dobro player. And I joined his band, and we were in a bluegrass band, and we played, you know, all over the place, and it was great. And Steve turned me on to Tony Rice. Tony Rice led me to Jerry Garcia. I didn't grow up listening to the Dead. I mean, I know. Matter of fact, I didn't really understand them. You know, it wasn't something I really was into. And listening to Tony Rice and finding the pizza tapes and listening to Grisman and Rice and Garcia play, I was absolutely awestruck by Garcia's voice and playing. So my love for the Dead has, you know, changed over the years. But for me now, I still go back to Jerry Garcia's acoustic playing. For me, that's like the core of my love for the Dead and Garcia. My daughter Hallie Sandt, her band is incredible, and I'm not saying that just because I'm her dad and I'm biased. They're incredible, and she's really great. Favorite memory with her was sitting with her late at night on a Friday or Saturday night till like all hours of the morning. She would literally sit on my lap and we would watch videos or listen to music, and I would introduce her to Aretha Franklin and Ray Charles and Jerry Garcia and B.B. King. And I remember tears coming down my face because we would sit and talk about the music, and I saw how much it influenced her. I would teach her what dissonance is. And for those listening who don't know, dissonance is a tool in music where you intentionally play notes that wouldn't normally work together. And when that dissonance happens, and then when it relieves itself, there's an incredible feeling that comes from that. And I remember teaching her about that. And what we would do is I would play passages of music from Coltrane, or Miles Davis, or Derek Trucks, where they employed dissonance. One morning after we had, the morning after we had spent the night together listening to music and talking about dissonance, she was in the kitchen eating salt and vinegar potato chips. And she was sitting at the kitchen table. And I remember she turned to me and my wife Donna and said, Dad, these potato chips taste like what dissonance sounds like. And I was like, oh man, we got one here. My first concert was Rat. And Bon Jovi, an unknown guy, opened up for them. He was just some local New Jersey guy, and that was my first concert. I was 16 years old. I went with a bunch of buddies from St. Joe's High School at the Brennan Burn.
Let's start there, right? The Grateful Dead and Jerry Garcia band, I think I like equally for different reasons, and really it's all about Jerry for me. So, like those two are like, okay, that's one for sure. Similar to that, I would put like the Derek Trucks band and Tedeschi Trucks band would be in my top list also, and I kind of put them together. I wouldn't really choose one over the other because Derek is central to that music. The Allman Brothers kind of stand by themselves. Certainly would be in that list too. And I think that I put like Miles and Coltrane kind of together. I mean, I've listened to jazz from going way back, actually even to high school. And for me, Miles and Coltrane are kind of central to my appreciation of jazz and what I love about jazz.
So talk about that.
Yeah, I think for me, Derek Trucks, I think, is probably what Jerry was for a lot of people growing up in the 70s who were music fans and discovered Jerry, and he touched them in some kind of way, and they were connected to him and followed him. For me, it was kind of Derek Trucks. I think it had something to do with timing. I mean, my age at the time, when he joined the Allman Brothers, I was a huge Allman Brothers fan. And he came into the band, he made the band come back alive again, but there's something about Derek's playing that like transcends other music for me, or transcends the earth, like the world. I mean, it just goes sort of beyond. So what he brought to Tedeschi Trucks band for me is a better extension of like who he is in his music rather than associating with the Allman Brothers. Okay, so Organized Chaos was first. That was in 7th grade. That was a nice like oxymoron. Organized Chaos, Jennifer, because we met some chick at like some vacation we went on, like 8th grade, named Jennifer, so we named our band Jennifer. Explicit, I think, was then probably like the band named my band like early in high school, and then we kind of changed it around. We had a couple different names after that. In college, I was in a band called Dirty Nelly, and that was sophomore year in college. And then, like, in between all that was like a lot of different just jamming with people, like in between all these formal bands. But Dirty Nelly was fun. There was a guy from Cork, Ireland, and there's a bar in Ireland named Dirty Nelly. And then it was a Big Dog Blues Band, Jake's New Trick, Better Than Bowling, Midnight Moonlight, Midnight Toast, and
bands I've been in. So Basement Radio was an acoustic duo. I played in the Lucky Dozen. I played in Steve Toth and Rippling River. I played in the Big Dog Blues Band. I played in Murph and the Magic Tones. I played in Robin Murph. I played in the Faux Midnight Toast, Lightly Toasted, Midnight Moonlight, Shed Session. There's probably more, but yeah, long list. So playing in a dead band and Midnight Moonlight is unique across all the bands I've ever played with, really. And I think it's in part because of the Grateful Dead's music and the framework that it provides you. Unlike cover bands, like doing a Stones cover band or a Beatles cover band, I think with the Grateful Dead, you've got a blank canvas as a band. Now you've got to stay within a certain framework. You're playing Cassidy, you've got to play Cassidy, right? You're playing Deep Ellum Blues, you're going to play Deep Ellum Blues, you're going to sing those lyrics. But being in a band like Midnight Moonlight allows you to be so expressive. It's like being in a jazz band, right? And every time we do the tune, it's a little bit different. And that makes it really exciting.
Nice.